Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Always love talking with this guy. He is an icon in the music industry right out of Nashville. That's where he is right now. He's a producer, singer, writer, works with so many different artists. He does so many great things, even pro bono, to help charitable organizations as well. And it's great to have him back with us. Tony Mantor is on the program. Hey, Tony, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I don't know if I'd use the word icon or not, but that's a nice intro.
Well, actually, I meant there was an icon at the bottom of my screen here, so I was.
Oh, there we go. That's good.
I'm looking at your shelf, and just I see Glenn Campbell up there and other artists, and these are, if people don't get it, how amazing they were back in the day and the music that they produced. It just, I was just listening to Paul McCartney, albums that people don't even know about. Back to the Egg. I don't know if anybody even knows that album. And I was like, Arrow Through My Heart. Just like, wow, I'm going to say probably most of the people listening right now have no idea what I'm talking about. It was great.
Well, for the longest time, and there was a group of people that just loved the AOR stations, because they could hear, the cuts that were on the albums. It wasn't all the top 40 hits out there, and it was almost kind of like the underground, Grateful Dead type thing, because you could hear so many different styles of music. And then when the internet came along, it allowed people to find music that they didn't hear at radio, and it opened up people's minds. But then it seems like it kind of closed again for some reason, and a lot of those iconic singers and songwriters and bands and everything have kind of faded away to a certain group of people. So it's kind of a big circle, and hopefully they'll come back again, because great music.
Yeah, when you say AOR, for anybody that doesn't know, back in the 70s, 80s, album-oriented rock, meaning that people went deeper into the albums and enjoyed that music. And to your point, I believe it's our society. Give me what I need right now, play me the hits. I'm going on Spotify. I got my 5 choices there. I got, songs
Right.
I know, instead of just taking the time, because we're all so busy. And yeah, I'm busy too, but that's my guilty pleasure while I'm working. It's like, I haven't heard that album in a while, and I remember that track. I won't go so deep into an album and just listen to every track. I honestly don't have time. But
Right.
there are certain, because I'm a music geek, there are certain tracks that I know that I remember, wow, that was a great song. Wasn't a hit. Maybe
Well,
the album rock world, it might have been a hit. I don't know.
Well, if you go back to like Van Halen, I mean, Van Halen was this heavy hard rock band, and I mean, it was pure genius, actually, if you stop and think about it. They would have 1 or 2 songs on their whole album that were commercial enough to be played on commercial radio, and everything else was it was more on a harder rock station or the AORs. But then when people actually went to see them because they played their hits, they got their minds open to all these other songs that they'd never heard before.
Yeah, you're totally right. And funny you should say that. I graduated with a guy who's in a nationwide known Van Halen tribute band. It's called Completely Unchained. Eugene is the lead singer, puts on the wig. He's David Lee Roth. And because it was back on my radar and I saw him, it was a fundraiser a couple of weeks ago, I looked at like Van Halen 2, and I'm like, each track, like, that was huge. That was huge. That was huge. Like almost every song on there,
Right.
now well recognized as these were really big songs. In fact, not off of that album necessarily, but just came out today. On guitar solos that didn't get the recognition that they should have gotten. This is just popping in my head. I just read it today.
Okay.
And Eruption from Van Halen is one of them. Where, what a great performance. Even on this list, and it was a survey, Layla by Derek and the Dominoes.
Right.
Whoa, wow. But, it's like from 1972. It was a hit, and then kind of put it off to the shelf over here. But, man, that was a good performance.
Absolutely. I mean, there is just so much about music that people lose, and there's so much that they gain. But I had friends of mine that they only knew the hits. They did not know any other song that these artists did. And I would say, "Oh, did you hear this song? Did you hear this song?" And they'd go, "Who is that?" I'm going, it's the song, it's the artist that you listen to all the time, but they only listen to the hits. So if it wasn't played on commercial top 40 radio, they never heard it. And it was, I mean, what a sad thing.
I know this is what I'm exactly what I'm talking about. We're totally on the same page. And doesn't it blow your mind when you talk to those people? It's like, you love this artist. How do you not know that song? And
Exactly.
it's not like you're going way deep. It was a song that is known, not a hit, but it's known. It's not like going into like super deep into the album.
Right.
Let's face it, not every song on an album typically is a winner. Fantastic. Sometimes there's some filler in there. Okay. But if you love an artist, you would think that you would know all this, reasonably know a lot of the songs on albums.
Well, it's kind of like when I moved from being a singer, and on stage and performing and traveling, and I moved into the background of production and development. A lot of my friends said, "Aren't you worried your name's gonna go away?" And I'm gonna go, yeah, probably will. But these people that follow these artists, they know who sing on it, they know who play on it, they know who produced it, they know the label, they know who wrote the song. And that used to be the way things were. I don't know if that's true today or not. Whether everybody digs so deep into that artist to find everything about them like they used to. But there was a time when if you brought up Elvis, or you brought up Sammy Hagar, or you brought up, Aerosmith, or whoever you brought up, you pretty much knew their label, their producer, and the players in the band.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I think, a different time back then, 80s, call it that. You were more invested in a band, where now, obviously not so much, but you would think even if you're into the band, you would know more. Like, example, and he's up on the wall right there, one of my favorites, Sting. That's a Gym Today, and the album came out probably like 4 years ago. Him and Shaggy did an album together, and they've worked together since, because Sting has some reggae roots, with the Police, and Yada Mandata, and even before that, and they did a great album. And somebody who says I love Sting, he's fantastic, I respect him, blah 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, did you ever hear his album with Shaggy? What are you talking about? Like,
well, it's like remember, who was it? I can't think of the name now, but did a song with Paul McCartney, and all the people that followed him said, "Oh, isn't it great that he's helping out an unknown?"
Michael Jackson, maybe.
I can't remember who it was now. I just can't. The name just drifts away for me. But I remember them saying, "Oh, what a great thing he's doing to help out this artist." And I mean, it's like, the Beatles. To go back a little bit. I mean, it's. But that's what today is. They don't know. I worked with a girl back in 2005. 2006, somewhere around there, and she was a sweet singer. Wanted to be an R&B singer. So. But this will just kind of say it all. And this was 2005. Her roots for R&B was the 90s. So all the girl bands, that were kind of R&B-ish back in the 90s, that was her roots. And I'm going, do you realize who influenced these girls?
Right.
And so her father got a big kick out of this. I told her, I said, I am not going to do another production on you until you go back and there's an album out there called Artist of the 70s Original Hits, R&B. Get that, listen to it. Her father calls me up. He goes, "You're going to get a laugh out of this." Aretha Franklin came on, and he started singing along with it. And his daughter looked down and goes, "You know this song?" He goes, "Baby, I grew up with this song," And then I had opened her mind, because all of a sudden she, wanted to take and do more songs that had that kind of groove to it, that feel.
Mhm.
Whereas all the other girl bands that she was listening to, they had the loops and the beats and everything, but they didn't have any feel to it. They had no feel whatsoever. It was all programmed.
Yeah.
So I kind of, but that's kind of where we went there for a while, was all programmed music, all loops, and people really didn't have a feel for the groove of the music and how it's supposed to grab you.
It's amazing, and it had to come from somewhere. So it came from the 60s, and she, 90s, probably her R&B roots were like Destiny's Child,
Yes,
territory,
yes,
right? My
exactly.
I want to talk about Glenn Campbell, but you brought back my daughter's 15 and last year, and she's into, pretty heavily into rap, Boogie with a Hoodie, Lil Peep, who since passed away, artists like that. So I get in, she puts on Foghat,
Okay.
Full for the City.
Wow.
And I'm driving like, how do you know this song? She goes, it was a TV show or in a TikTok video. But she went from heavier rap to like classic rock. And then for a long time, every time we would get in the car, she would want to open up the moonroof and put that
Uh,
song on.
That's
It's like,
awesome.
yeah. Oh, I really thought it was. It was great. Yeah. So Glenn Campbell, just iconic. You're working with his daughter?
Yes, Debbie. That's Debbie, is his first daughter from his first marriage, and she back in the mid '80s was at a show of his, and she goes, "You want me to come up and sing with you?" And he goes, "Yeah." So it opened up things, and they sang well together. And Debbie is really the female Glenn Campbell. She's got such a beautiful tone to her voice, you
Wow.
know. And so she wound up staying on the road with him for like 24 years, traveling the world and singing songs with him, and he'd go off stage and change or whatever, and she'd take over, and it was just a great thing.
Beautiful. Wow. So what's she working on right now? What are you working on with her?
I just released a song that he'd cut called Sunflower. Um, we released it over in the UK, and it got tremendous response over there because Glenn traveled the world, and he's got huge fans over in the UK. They love him, and because Debbie was with him for so long, they always all remember her. So we released that, and then I've got a song that I cut on her album that paid tribute to her father, and it's called "Looks Like Rain." And it is one of the most vivid songs that I think I've ever heard. You can listen to it and you can picture every line in your head. And it's about Alzheimer's. It's about this, the songwriter that wrote it. I mean, he had a family member that was going through it, and basically it's got one line in it that he just sets out the windows and stares. And so we cut that, and my goal is to release that in the UK and put together a video at some point here through the summer or early fall, and do this video with her and her dad, and just really pay tribute to not only him but the people like him that's going through Alzheimer's, and try and help that.
Wow. Wow. Can I look for that? Would I find it online somewhere?
I'm not sure if it's online yet or not, because we haven't really released it. But I tell you what, I can get you a copy so you can hear it.
I would love to hear it. Like
Yeah, it's a
just
great, great song.
I hear it, but I don't hear it. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what you're saying, I'm visualizing what it could be like to be immersed in the
Oh, it's
visuals of it.
yeah, it's awesome. It really is. So
Uh,
we're that's my summer project.
Wow. And also working with a name I remember from 70s and 80s, Donnie Most, right?
Yeah, yeah. Donnie Most of Happy Days, Ralph Mouth.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we
Wow.
released a song on with him last fall, I think it was. That old Smokey song, "Ooh Baby Baby."
Hmm.
That went over really well. And then we did a slowed down version of "Smoke from a Distant Fire."
Oh, Sanford Townsend Band,
Yeah.
1977. I'm gonna say.
Yeah, yeah. So we slowed that down and gave it more of I'm not going to say Frank Sinatra style, but definitely a more slower, in your face style than the up tempo version.
Wow.
And that went over really well at jazz radio here in the U.S. And I just released "I Love the Way My Baby Sings the Blues," and that was an old jump blues song, and we released that, and we've got I don't know 13, 14 stations on it in the first week, so that's going real well.
Wow. Does he play as well?
No, he's just a singer.
The singer. Wow.
But he's like I said, he's kind of like a Bobby Darin, Frank Sinatra, big band sound,
Gotcha.
and he only sang a couple of times on Happy Days, but man, he's got such a great voice, and they can get that on, I mean, iTunes. It's on iTunes. Ooh Baby Baby and Smoke from a Distant Fire. We've got a couple songs on Debbie on iTunes too, so they can check her out and hear what she sounds like. But both great singers, hitting the charts, doing really, really well.
I'm intrigued as to what that song "Smoke from a Distant Fire" would sound like, slowed down with sort of a big band crooner kind of sound to it. Again, I'm hearing it in my head.
Yeah, well, it's like I said, it's on iTunes, so you can grab it there and listen to it. It did really well. I mean, jazz radio is an album orientated market, but I'm actually doing old school with Donnie on this. We're releasing a single, then we're releasing another single, and then we'll release the third single with the album. And this is kind of cool because Smoke from a Distant Fire hit the top 300 album chart as a single.
Wow. What album chart as a single? All right.
Yes.
That's different. Wow.
Yeah.
Not like an EP, but as a
single,
wow.
and that just usually doesn't happen, but it did. And people like the song. So yeah, things are going really well for them.
When you take a song like that, and if I recall, Sanford Townsend Band, that was a top 5 song.
Yeah. Great song.
Do you have to get the rights from the writers of that song?
Well, once a song is released, you can actually record it any way that you want to record it. You just have to go through like Harry Fox or somebody that handles the publishing, so that way you can get the rights and pay the royalties. But once you've done that, you're good to go.
Okay. And then how do they determine what the royalties on the song are going to be?
Well, the royalties are set by the standards, and I think it's like just under 10 cents for every cut. So if you make 1,000, I just rounded up and call it 10 cents. So it's kind of like we was talking about, Spotify and all them, because back then I was telling you that for every single or every album that was sold, the songwriter would get their 10 cents. Whereas with Spotify, they get their fraction of a penny. Because it's not sold, it's just rented. So that's why we hope that people go out and buy it, and that's why the songwriters want you to buy it, because even some of the most prolific songwriters of all time are, now that their songs are on Spotify, they're getting paid exactly the same as anybody that's unknown as a songwriter. They're getting fractions of a penny for every stream.
I don't know if you're aware of this, and I as a program director of a radio station, and it's been probably left that position like 9 years ago. The way that people would get paid, and this is, ASCAP BMI,
right?
We would just send them a week's worth of logs,
right?
And they would ballpark based on what you play.
Yes.
Not like you send the entire year and example, oh, Donnie Most, he played his song 43 times, so we're going to pay him that amount from this radio station, from that radio station. It's all a big ballpark formula that they figure out. Again, just a week's worth of airplay. Well,
now, in today's world, you've got the monitored market, media-based, Billboard, iHeart, that type of thing, and because they're monitored, so if it gets played at 1:00 in the morning or 5:00 in the afternoon, it goes into the computer and it's logged. Now, every other chart is just like what you just said. your billboard and media base mid levels, your secondaries, all the stations that chart out there, they do the same thing. It is they send their playlist for a week and they send it in. It's all compiled, and then that's how they do their charts. So it's still kind of the same process.
Yeah. When I said a week, I mean a week out of a year to determine. And yes,
Right.
that was a media-based station. We were definitely
Right.
reporting and everything. Not to get
Yes.
too technical here and all of that.
Right.
So other question I've always wondered about. Let's say the other night I went to go see the Wallflowers.
Right.
One Headlight and 6th Avenue Heartache, right? It was great. He didn't end Jacob Dylan, he didn't end with One Headlight, which everybody thought would be like the last song, big send off.
Right.
He did 2 Tom Petty songs after that. And it was great. Sounded great. If you perform it live, can you just pick any song to play? And do you have to pay any kind of rights royalty?
That's where usually your venue has a deal with ASCAP. ASCAP handles a lot of the performing rights royalties,
Okay.
whereas BMI collects your radio royalties. So that's when you get into the venues going in and working a deal. So I remember for the longest time when I was out there performing, I would go into a venue and they would be so ticked off because ASCAP had just been in and just threatened them with a lawsuit because they weren't a member of ASCAP. So yeah, I mean, your performance rights, that's where ASCAP gets involved, and because radio is BMI, so it's pretty well controlled, but a lot of the smaller venues kind of slip through the cracks. But when you get into your mid-size and your larger ones, they're right there to collect.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I remember back in the day, if you were before streaming, before internet,
Right.
whatever, if you were listening to music and ASCAP happened to walk into your little coffee shop and you were paying and you're exposing the public to music for your benefit,
right?
Because you're providing music while people drink coffee, you get busted.
Well, that's when like places like Muzak and those type of things came up. Because they would pay all the royalties that they needed to play, and they'd go in and they'd recut the songs in something with just instrumentation and send it out. But even today, when you walk into a bank, even it can be a small bank or a large bank, they've got piped music, but now it's a different thing, so that they don't have to get through that with that ASCAP problem.
Right. I want to talk about in the time we have here, your projects, and that it centers around autism, where you've produced some songs and videos. Tell us about that.
Well, as we talked about before, I had recorded Why Not Me in an adult contemporary pop version. I made a video that included autistic people here in Nashville to be part of my video called Why Not Me Nashville. I really just kind of thought, because I've done a lot of projects to help out charities and everything over the years, and usually when you get into a project, it's going to last 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and then you've done your thing, and then you move on to what you do, and then if another one comes along, you do the same thing. Well, this one here, for some reason, just grew its own legs. I mean, I did exactly what I anticipated was going to happen. And I did it. I planned for like a 5 or 6 month run, do what I could do. And then all of a sudden, I started getting calls from all around the world. Okay, how do we get involved? How can we help? Can you do one with me? And so I'm through the summer not only working on Debbie's project, and because Donnie's got a big single coming out in the fall called New York High, which is going to be cool. So with that happening, I decided that take and build a worldwide Why Not Me the World. And then it developed where I had people calling me up, and it's like because they'd seen the podcast I've been doing here, and they've seen I've been interviewed on different podcasts all over the country and all around the world, and so I would get messages saying, hey, how can we be part of that? So I decided to create my own podcast called Why Not Me the World. and I'm going to debut that next month. And I've got some really great really great guests that's going to be on it. I mean, I had one on this morning that I recorded, and it was just the information that I get is just so outstanding, and I'm hoping that it can help people because if I'm talking with somebody that's in Virginia, let's say, and somebody in New York or London or wherever in the world, they hear the podcast, they can hear this. I'm hoping that they can say, well, I kind of went through the same thing. And then if we can break down those barriers so that we can have a better understanding of it, hopefully it'll make it a little bit easier world for everybody to, navigate through.
I love it. And it's always been said that music is universal, and you can go anywhere in the world and play a song. And if somebody can't understand the lyrics, they're going to get the energy from it, what went into it, the feel of it. And I think it's the same thing here, where you're bringing people together through music, which is, again, universal. I don't think there's anything else that connects people like music does.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm hoping,
Yeah.
I mean, even if you look at some of these songs like America's Got Talent and those Britain's Got Talent and those shows. If you go into Asia, you can see on YouTube and everything, they're all talking in their native language, but when they get up there and sing the song, it's in English.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, even though the people might not understand everything about that song that these people are singing, it's a universal language.
Yeah. Yeah. How do we find out more about that project? I know your website is your name, right? Tony Mantor, Mantor. That's Tony with a Y, TONY, MANTOR.com. We can find the Why Not Me project on there as well.
Yeah. They and what I'm hoping to is I've got a newsletter they can sign up for, so that way they get them monthly updates. And what I'm really hoping for is that everybody will get involved, because I think the biggest thing that separates us, and this isn't just autism, it's on just about everything you can think of, is understanding. If we start understanding what other people are going through, no matter whether it's autism, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, pick whatever you want to pick. If we can have a better understanding on that, I'm hoping that will take and just make things a little bit easier for a lot of people because we're all different. We all have our little quirks, and then when you go into a store, you go into any place and you see somebody acting a little bit different, doesn't mean they've got anything. They might be just acting out, or they might have something wrong. But if we understand it and we kind of that allows us to accept it a little bit better, and then hopefully it'll just make it a little bit easier for everybody to communicate and get through this life.
You are the bridge to that, and that. For that, I thank you. And Tony, I can go on forever. We're out of time, but like music, man, I just, a couple of beers in Nashville. I got to get there one day.
Anytime.
Always great talking with you. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.